Hello everyone, this is Jason from Primetime Aquatics, and today it's that time of year again. We're going to be doing a full fish room tour. In this video, we're going to be looking at this side of the fish room. There are a lot of fish that you haven't seen before, some fish that have grown up and have gotten a lot larger and are showing more color, so stay tuned. So this is one of my favorite tanks. This is our 50-gallon lowboy. It's 4 feet long, 2 feet wide, only 10 inches tall, and perfect for this fish, Neolamprologus multifasciatus, better known as the multi-shell dweller. I love this fish. It is so cool. This is one of my favorite tanks to look at. We've got a large community of multis, and we pull lots of multis out of here and bring them to swaps and auctions just to kind of keep the populations down a little bit. And every time we do that, what's really cool is we see babies everywhere. So what's awesome about this tank is as you go around from one location to another, there are little tiny babies. Sometimes they're just sticking their little heads out of their shells. And what's really cool about the multis, as you can see, is they really don't eat their babies, which is pretty awesome. I'll put a species profile, a card up in the upper right hand corner so you can check these out if you want to get more information. But this is an awesome fish. Love this tank. This is our top 75 Mbuna tank. It is one of my favorite tanks to look at. I absolutely love this tank. We've got fish from all over Lake Malawi. We actually have a couple Lake Victorians in here. There's 2 species 35s in here as well. We did add some OBs just because I thought they would add a lot of color, and they've worked out great. This is a fantastically rewarding tank, and again, if you get these fish right, you get something like this where they're not super aggressive towards one another. It's a decently heavily stocked tank, but it manages aggression well. You get lots of color. I absolutely love this tank. Like I said, it's one of our favorite tanks, or one of my favorite tanks to look at. And it's really cool because we get a lot of breeding activity in this tank as well. So absolutely probably one of my top 5 tanks in our fish room. So this is our 40-gallon breeder, Cyprichromis leptosoma breeding tank. We get, again, you can see so many babies up there at the top. And we just recently thinned out this herd a little bit and brought a bunch to some local swaps and auctions. And we've got a bunch of holding females in here. This is, again, one of the fish that I really wanted when we started up our fish room. The males, as you can see, look amazing. They've got that purple color with the yellow tails. There's also some Neolamprologus brevis shell dwellers in here. They're cool as well. They're breeding in here. And so we've got some babies of the shell dwellers in here as well. There's a couple of bristlenose plecos in here. You know, I leave some of the green hair algae on those rocks just because when the babies are really super tiny, they like to pick at the stuff. So that's why that's in there. I don't make a huge effort to take that out of this tank, but this has been a very productive tank for us and one that I really like to look at. This is actually one of my favorite large Lake Malawi cichlids. These are star sapphires. Love them a lot. The males, you can see here, they're blue. They've got the white spots, and then the females are the darker ones with the vertical stripes. We've actually had them breed for us. We've got some fry on the other side, but I love this fish. This is a great fish. They're in a 40 right now. This is too small. So they're going to be moving into a larger tank as soon as we get some of the larger tanks set up. That will allow us to move fish around. We're also probably going to thin this out a little bit. I would like to focus a little bit more on breeding these guys, so we might just cut it down to 1 male with the 2 females, which will require less space. But they get big, and a 40 breeder is not big enough for them. But we'll get them in a larger tank relatively soon. But again, you look at the colors, they're amazing fish. So when I first started the fish room, this was actually a fish that was on my must-have list. These are electric blue Acara. I just really like them. They have that nice, awesome electric blue color. They're relatively peaceful. We have 9 of them right now in a 40-gallon breeder. We're going to thin this herd out a little bit. We would like them to breed. With 9 of them in here right now, that is probably not going to happen. All the roots and structures that you see are pothos roots, and actually the pothos from this tank is growing all over this entire rack. But these are great fish, relatively peaceful. They could probably go in a community tank as long as the fish that are in there aren't too small where they could be eaten. They're really just not that aggressive. Even towards one another, they're not overly aggressive. Like this fish a lot. Again, our goal here is to thin out the herd a little bit and get them to breed in the relatively near future. This is actually a tank that houses primarily Lake Tanganyikan fish. Yes, there is a lot of stuff going on in here. First of all, we got a bunch of jungle val. And I just kind of let it do its thing. And then on the back, believe it or not, there is a large stack of flagstone back there. And then we've got this green hair algae growing all over it. We have Ophthalmotilapia ventralis powder blue, and those are the fish that are the feather fins. Those are more mid, top water fish. We've got 4 of them in this tank. And then the other fish that we have are a shell dweller, Neolamprologus meleagris. We've had babies from them before, and that's one of the reasons why I like to keep the jungle bell at the bottom. I like to keep lots of shells, give them a little cover, because the other fish that we have in here are Untitled Chapter, and they are predators. So this is another tank I really enjoy. These are Pseudotropheus saulosi. It's another type of Mbuna cichlid. In this tank we've got 4 males and 2 females, so the ratios aren't quite ideal, but if you look way in the upper right hand corner, you're going to see a breeder box there full of babies. On the other side of the fish room we have a lot more saulosi babies, and I just love this tank. These fish are awesome. They get along pretty well. You know, again, 4 males and 2 females, and they're doing pretty good, so they're not beating on each other too bad or anything like that. Again, it's just another tank that I really like to look at. What's cool about these fish is the males look different from the females, and so the males are the ones you see with those really awesome dark bars, and they're blue, and the females are a nice deep yellow. So it's a cool fish, because if you're keeping cichlids, just by keeping one species you get 2 colors, 1 species. So this tank is kind of interesting. Right now we've got, again, some Mbuna cichlids in here. This is Metroclima grishaki. These are albinos. The males have that really, really white color, and they've got kind of an orange dorsal fin. The females stay kind of a little bit more yellow. Cool fish. We've got 2 males and 2 females in here, and the females are really starting to hold a lot of fry for us. We've actually got a couple juveniles in here that survived. This has also turned into a bristlenose breeding tank. It wasn't necessarily set up to do that, but we've gotten a lot of babies out of here. We probably in the last few months we've removed maybe 50 or 60 and sold those off, and we still have quite a few. And I just noticed that we have another batch. I see some really tiny ones at various parts of this tank, so it's kind of cool. It's a very productive tank for us, and probably something that will be changed over at some point to something maybe a little bit more aesthetically pleasing. So this is our bottom 125 gallon. It's a strange mix of fish, I will admit that. What do we have going on in here? So we've got the Oscar, we've got the very large Nile tilapia, Oreochromis niloticus. We have some OB cichlids, some red Empress. We have a red devil in here, a Geophagus steindachneri male. So yeah, again, it's an odd mix of fish, but for the most part they get along really well. We don't see a lot of bullying, we don't see any fin nipping going on, nobody's hiding up in a corner. They settle all their disputes with just kind of a display of, hey, I'm the boss, and then somebody kind of goes into their own little part of the tank. We also, believe it or not, have a couple things going on here that's quite surprising, probably for a lot of you, and that is we do have bristlenose plecos that breed in here from time to time. We started with 2, I think we're up to about 8, and we have quite a few OB fry in here as well, very small fry. I talk about this in other videos, but they survive in here just fine, and the reason for that is the other fish get fed really well, and they don't want to waste their time chasing around smaller fish. So I love this tank. It's something I really love to look at. I think the fish in here are fantastic. Again, I know it's a strange mix, but it works, and we're always keeping an eye on things, and if it doesn't work in the future, we'll make adjustments. This is our bottom 75 gallon on this side of the fish room, and it's just gone through many iterations. It started out as a red Empress breeding tank. We had some dragon bloods in here. We started to get some hybrids, which were really cool. So all the OBs that you see in our fish room, that is a hybrid between the red Empress and the dragon bloods. You can see one of those in this tank here, that OB. We've since added some other peacocks and haps as well. We've got the Eureka red that was actually in the 55. That male along with the females are in this tank. We also added some Mbenji peacocks, and I believe there's another variant in there as well. And really the goal now with this tank is I just want to see what kind of cool looking fish we can get out of this. I know there are so many opinions about whether or not you should hybridize fish or not. None of these fish are threatened or endangered. You know, red Empress are extremely common, Eureka reds are extremely common, dragon bloods are a hybrid anyway. And so what I'm trying to accomplish here is I just want to see what awesome coloration we can get from some of these females. So this is a 20 gallon high. This has a breeding group of rusty cichlids in here. I really love rusty cichlids. They're not terribly aggressive. They would show much better color if we had them on a lighter substrate. Right now they look kind of washed out and brownish purple. But you put these guys on a white substrate, and my goodness, you really start to see a nice light gold color. We get a lot of nice purpley colors to them as well. So this substrate is not doing them justice. We do have some babies in here, and it's pretty cool. We're hoping next time I find a female that's holding, I'm going to go ahead and pull her and put her in a 10 gallon, and hopefully we get some more fry, because these fish really are cool and they are on the right substrate. This is housing Hierotilapia multispinosa. I just turned the lights on, so perhaps this is not the best time to be filming them. We'll go ahead and get some close-ups here in a second, but these are great fish. Too many of them for a 20-gallon for sure. We let them grow up, and now we're at a point where we can start selecting some of the fish that we want to breed, and we'll probably go ahead and send some of the other fish off to the swaps and auctions because it's a little crowded in here for this size of a fish. They're relatively peaceful, which is really cool, but 9 of them in a 20 is not ideal, and we want to get some breeding, and this is not going to do it. They did eat all of our plants, and so if you look at some of the early videos when we first set this tank up, we had some nice jungle val, and it was all kind of flowing almost all the way to the top of the tank. Yeah, they ate it all, but that's what they do. So this is Luke's 10-gallon tank. This is just a breeding tank for him. It is housing some guppies. He's got some yellow snakeskin top sword guppies. These are actually, they came from Twin Cities guppies, and he's gotten quite the colony going here. Really cool. The males, as I'll show you in a second here with the close-up, the males have really awesome finish, especially that top sword. It gets like a nice fluorescent green. Very cool little strain of guppies. So we have a few things going on in this 20 long. Thing number one, we have our very old Peacock Gudgeons, and these fish are definitely over 2 years old, and for a Peacock Gudgeon, we're starting to get up there in age, so this is kind of a retirement tank for them at this point. The other thing that we have going on, and this is a fish that's not going to stay in here long term, these are Goodeids that you see here kind of swimming around all crazy. Iliodon wide-eye, they're really cool. Goodeids are Acara's species, and so they are endangered in many of the locations that you would find them in. And so we are part of the Chicago Livebearer Society, and we decided to go ahead and keep a species of Goodeid. And I like them so far. They've got a lot of personality. They're going to get bigger. This is a larger species, so this 20-gallon tank isn't going to be something that they're going to stay in long term. And then somehow we wound up with a guppy in here. I have no idea how that happened. There were guppies in the 20 right next to this tank, and so it's in here. We'll probably get that out of here relatively soon and make sure that that has a home for itself. But yeah, Peacock Gudgeons and Goodeids. So I really like this 20 long. This is a 20 long right now that is housing our Japan blue guppies. It's a really cool strain. It's also got a couple of large mystery snails, and believe it or not, those mystery snails have been producing eggs, and they lay the eggs on the top of the polycarbonate lid. And I think that's going to be an okay place for them because the water doesn't go all the way up and those eggs can't be submerged in water, but they do need to stay humid and moist. And so I think that's going to be a pretty good location for them. We'll see if we get any babies out of that. But yeah, these Japan blue guppies are really pretty. The males especially are gorgeous. I like the way the tank is turning out. There's a little bit of green hair algae there, but the snails for the most part take care of that. The guppies like to pick on it. You can see here we've got a lot of babies, not a lot of cover. And the reason for that success is we tend to feed the adults pretty well, and they don't want to waste the energy necessarily to eat all the babies. So yeah, we are getting babies in this tank. Love the way the plants are starting to come in. So this is a tank that I think if we look at it in 6 months, hopefully it's looking even better for us. This is a 20 long that houses our super red bristlenose breeding tank, and we are constantly getting babies, and as you can see, there are lots of babies in this tank. We just recently had 2 more batches of babies, and so every once in a while we'll get 30 or 40 of them up here. I love the super red bristlenose. I just think they're probably one of my favorite bristlenose variants, and so yeah, this tank has been super productive. It's not super beautiful, but the goal here is to make lots of babies. And the other thing that this tank is producing a lot of, as you can see at the top, is jungle val, and then we've got some Java moss in here. So this is really a working tank for us, something that produces a lot of fish. This is the other 20 long right next to the super red tank, and again, it's a working tank for us. This is a tank that produces both brown and albino bristlenose for us. We do have some babies in here. Again, there's a lot of jungle val. We even have some anubias growing out, some crypts growing out. So this is an interesting 20. This is another one of these 20s that have gone through a few iterations since it's been up and running. Right now, it houses some of Luke's dwarf panda blue guppies, and they're really quite tiny for a guppy. At least the males are. The males are very small. They just recently started having lots of babies, and I only see 1 or 2 males in this entire tank and a lot of females, but hopefully some of these babies give us some more males because they're pretty cool. The other thing that we have going on in this tank that I really love are the L10A lizard tail plecos. We have 3 of them. They haven't bred for us yet. We haven't made a big, huge attempt to do that, but they're just so cool, and so we'll show you those as well. But the tank that is set up, again, this is a tank that's really designed to breed fish. So in this bottom 10 we have a small group of yellow labs. Yes, we still like to breed the yellow labs. I know they're quite common, but they're so pretty. And so when we see a yellow lab holding, sometimes we will pull her, put her in a 10-gallon tank, and we can see here we've actually got two different groups. And so the larger ones are actually from a different female, and then the smaller ones, we just put her in here and she spit these fry out not long ago. And so now we've got two different groups here, but they're really cool. I really like the yellow labs. They're relatively peaceful for an Mbuna, and like I said, we like to pull a group out every now and then. This is our 10-gallon. That's a mix of Dragon Bloods and Red Empress. They're hybrids. I really like these fish. They are quite a lot of color. They don't appreciate having a camera stuck on their face, but these fish are great. They're going to be moving out of this 10-gallon. Obviously, there's a lot of them in here, and we've got to get them into a grow-out bin, which is going to happen very, very soon. But I love the colors of the Red Empress looking fish. I love the colors of the Dragon Bloods. Really cool little fish. So these are some juvenile species 35, Cyprichromis species 35 tomato haps that are growing out. This is a great fish from Lake Victoria, and we've got a male and another larger juvenile in the 75-gallon Mbuna tank, but these are great fish with awesome color. So this is the 23-gallon bowfront. In this tank we have a small breeding group of Mbuna cichlids that probably won't stay in here for very long. This is Cyanotilapia afra jarro reef, not Jalo reef, but jarro reef. These fish have a slightly different pattern than the more popular Jalo reef that you would find in a lot of the stores. And so it looks like we've probably got a couple males and most likely 3 females. The males have a little bit more color. Like I said, so the idea here is we want to breed these guys and see what they look like, and eventually we'll throw the better ones in the 75 Mbuna community tank. So this is our 37-gallon tank. It's housed a lot of different fish in the past. Right now it started out with some white labs, the Mbuna cichlids that you see with the more purplish tint. And they've been breeding for us, which is pretty cool. And then we realized that they were very, very shy, and that's why we see some of the brilliant green rasboras up at the top. They leave them alone. Again, the rasboras are more mid-top water fish. We were trying to bring them out of the hiding spots, and that actually wasn't working all that well. And then we recently added in some of these Neolamprologus brichardi that we picked up recently, and it's a relatively common Lake Tanganyika fish. And yes, we just mixed lakes, Lake Tanganyika and Lake Malawi, I realize that, but it's working out well. And the idea here is maybe the brichardi would bring out the white labs, and that has certainly happened. So where the brilliant green rasboras weren't bringing them out, the brichardi have, and hopefully what we'll see is we'll get a little bit of breeding from the brichardi and the midwaters, and the Mbunas will continue to, since they're mouth brooders, we don't really have to worry too much about the brichardi eating the babies, because we'll just pull the females and let them spit the fry out in a different tank. All right, everyone, so that was the fish room tour. On this side of the fish room, there are 2 tanks that we left out. One was a 20-gallon, formerly known as the Guppy Party tank. We're actually switching that tank over to something else. The second one is the top 125. We had a parasite breakout in that fish tank, lost the Geophagus wine milleri, some of the severums. We're actually going to do a video on that tank specifically coming up fairly soon. We also are going to be doing a part 2 on the other side of the fish room. If you like this video, share, subscribe. We'll see you in the next one.